right, still with me, former trial and appellate attorney, Dr. Tracy A. Pearson. All right, Dr. Pearson, how likely is it legally that this verdict will be thrown out and there'll be a new trial granted?
It's a very high bar. It is something where the law is all over the place. I think I have a different perspective on this than probably most of the guests that have been on here, in that all jurors have bias. All people have bias. And what we have constructed in our legal system is a legal fiction in order to allow this process to work. Jury service is obligatory. You don't have any choice here about whether you want to be there. If you deliberately lie, you can get in serious trouble. And it requires disclosure of very highly personal information. So I'm not going to fault the juror for selecting the word no. Where I think the issue really is not the questionnaire. The issue is, was that person persuasive over 11 other people in the jury deliberation room?
Now, when we talk about bias, and I agree with you, everyone walks into there with their into a courtroom with their biases. We walk through the world with these biases. Now, his bias is very particular to what the charges were in this case. And if my understanding is correct, when he was in that jury room, he went to, and his bias was used toward the credibility of a witness. He said, well, I'm a victim of this, and I haven't forgotten any details. So when he was referring to some of the testimony of some of the victims, that was something that played well, I guess, in jury deliberations. So does that qualify? That sounds to me, I don't know if that qualifies for the type of bias that the court might be looking for.
I would agree with you. I think that in a jury deliberation room, jurors talk about things hypothetically all of the time. They talk about what they might have done. Would I have done this? Would somebody else have done this? And the types of things that this juror was talking about why somebody might come forward or not come forward, or remembering certain details and not others, is something that wasn't not presented during the trial. And I think it was just underscoring the information that was presented in the trial. Now, I haven't seen every moment of the trial, so I can't say that with absolute certainty. But again, I think that what I am more worried about is the juror that isn't aware of their bias. I'm worried about the juror who isn't aware that they are holding someone accountable for a particular stereotype that they aren't aware of. It isn't conscious to them. As opposed to, if you look at the Scott Peterson case, you're looking at an alleged juror who is gunning for someone, as opposed to this situation where it just doesn't seem like that was what was happening there. Again, I listen to my colleagues out there in the world who have this purity belief about the jury system, and the fact is that people they take everything that they bring in their lives into that room with them to try to understand what's happening in a case. And if we were to exclude every person, because that's one of the things that the defendant is talking about, that if they would have known, they would have struck that juror for cause. If we were to exclude every person who had ever been sexually assaulted or who had experienced sexual harassment, every 68 seconds in this country, someone is being sexually assaulted. We'd be excluding a lot of people, and we'd start leaning toward the direction of excluding people based on race, which is prohibited. So it's disproportionate to women in particular. To exclude women jurors who may have experienced sexual assault or sexual harassment. So, I think this is a road that we just don't want to go down, because what about the prosecutor saying, you know what, I want people on the jury who have had that experience so they know where they're coming from. We wouldn't want that either.
Yeah, fair enough. And you make some fantastic points. So my question, I guess, my follow-up is it broken, this jury selection or this questionnaire process? Can we do something? We're seeing these in a couple of high-profile cases. Of course, we're at much more risk of this type of thing in high-profile cases. Is there any way to fix it? Are the questionnaires the problem? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, we can, in fact, fix it. The way we fix it is not to change the questionnaire, is not to try to exclude bias, but to train jurors to recognize their own bias so that they're aware of it as they deliberate. so that they can question and challenge each other on that bias. Courts need to do a much better job of training jurors before they begin their jury service. It's a very quick process. You watch a little quick video, you get a little handbook, and off you go. And that just simply won't do based on what we know about how bias works.
All right, good stuff, Dr. Pearson. Appreciate that. Stand by. We're going to take a break. Coming up next,